Hello, good evening, and welcome to Sunday night's edition of Daily Record Hotline Live. We're going to look back at a packed weekend of top flight action. We're going to look back at Celtic's AGM, and obviously Scott Burns at some point hopefully will be joining us from Pittodrie. He's just been there to watch Aberdeen burst Hearts' bubble and inflict a first defeat upon the league leaders this season. I'm joined, as you can see, by Craig Swan and Andy Newport. Guys, how are we?
Good, Keith, thank you.
Very well, Keith.
Right, look, let's not mess about while we're waiting for Scott to join us from Pittodrie. It's been another incredible few days, hasn't it? I mean, no wonder, we need to pause for breath at times. We're no sooner through what went on at Hampden, the watching history being made, all the drama, the roller coaster stuff, and we knew it was going to come, that we were going to head back into the nitty-gritty and people falling out with each other again, getting back to the domestic scene. But even by the standards to which we've all become accustomed, Swanee, what's been on at Celtic over the last 2-3 days is absolutely astonishing.
Was the big Christmas edition of EastEnders brought forward to November, wasn't it? The big drama moment, the seismic moment. It was Friday's AGM. It was clearly an incredible scenario. Obviously, Michael Gannon was there for us and in the room as it all unfolded. But I mean, the feelings and the animosity from the fans towards the boardroom, which we didn't think could deepen any more than what it was, has just taken another bad turn on the back of that. And you just wonder, is there any way back now?
Well, that's what we'll explore a little bit. But Les, you mentioned that Mick was there for us at the AGM. I think we've got a clip of Mick and you can tell, even by the look in his face, he's absolutely stunned by what he's just witnessed inside. What's this?
Listen, well, I think we knew it was going to be a kind of volatile and, like you say, lively AGM. I don't think anyone could see this happening. To sum it up, the AGM was basically abandoned after half an hour. But that's only the start of it, really. I mean, there was problems right from the start. I mean, when the board introduced, there was boos and red cards, and I think we got about 4 minutes in, and Peter Lawler had to kind of adjourn and suspend it for half an hour after one of the fans approached the top table and was kind of shouting a ball, and it sparked a bit of an outburst. They postponed it for half an hour. They come back in, then they kind of rolled the usual kind of VT section of the AGM. That went by without too much incident. Apart from, well, I say that incident, there was a walkout before that. A section of the shareholders walked out, about 100 or so, walked out the meeting, then came back. They come back in after the VT section. But then it really escalated. We had Ross Desmond, the son of majority shareholder Dermot Desmond, had a statement on behalf of him and his dad, and it kind of lit the blue torch paper, really. It went very much kind of first on the defensive of his dad and the board, and then it went on the offensive, saying that they won't be railroaded by fans who are bullied the board members. The criticism of something that was shameful, he said, dehumanising, and then referenced the kind of this dispute with the kind of Green Brigade section and the kind of the flashpoint against Falkirk that's caused this kind of was a 6-game ban with potentially more. It basically accused the anti-establishment faction of causing disruption and all this kind of stuff. It was really quite strong stuff, a really kind of passionate kind of attack against groups of supporters who have criticised the club, and that's what really kind of triggered the kind of real anger. There was kind of shouts from the floor at that point, and kind of boos, and at that stage, Peter Lawler, as chairman, stepped in and basically stopped the AGM, called a halt.
Wow. And
that was it, really. So the big question is, where did they go from here? I mean, it really was. I mean, the anger and resentment in the room was palpable. It was just, I mean, it's unbelievable, really. It's just hard. It's hard to get your head around. So soon afterwards, it was kind of chaotic. I I mean, I think the very final line was Ross Desmond saying, "I know I've put a target on my back by saying this," but and at that point, that's when Peter Lawwell stepped in. I guess it's a bit like a boxing match. They step in too early. I think I wanted to hear the rest of the statement on behalf of his dad. It was incredible stuff. You'll see it on our website just now and this afternoon. Pretty much the full transcript. It was pretty strong stuff. I mean, there was a couple of things in the VT part, the video statements from Lawwell and Nicholson were a bit more kind of contrite. I mean, admitting there was mistakes made, but justifying the kind of the board's success over a long period of time. Things like lessons to be learned from the summer, but and there was a justification of the kind of money in the bank and the volatility of European football, having to safeguard against financial problems and not getting themselves to bother like the 90s and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And that was kind of what I thought was going to be the tone at points, but then obviously Ross Desmond he's obviously him and his father have been getting a lot of criticism and abuse of late, so they really went on the front foot. And came out swinging. But the question is, where does this go now? I mean, this is not a step towards peace or a step towards kind of a period of calm being restored. This is escalation.
Yeah. Look, we've got loads of comments coming in on this, guys, before I come to you. David Gillespie, the board have proved what everyone knew, gutless and don't want to face the truth. Another one here. From Paddy saying, sick fed up of these noisemongers trying to derail Celtic season. Ross Dermott was right, and anti-establishment types who want to rebel for the sake of it, trying to turn Celtic into a political rally. That's an unusual take, Swanee. But I kind of, do you know what? I think it was Ross Desmond had scored us. I mean, it's a spectacular own goal, a PR disaster. But actually, I had a bit of sympathy with some of the stuff that he was saying. There is a really militant faction of the Celtic support. It's the Green Brigade. He didn't find the courage to just come out and name them. But there are sort of real cracks in the support in general, in the club. Is there a silent majority out there, Swanee? You think they're just sick to the backteeth of this?
Yeah, I think you probably touched on a couple of things there, Keith. I think there's always been this sort of feeling around these situations that there is a noisy minority that make the most of these calls, and it is a silent majority. And I think that was clearly, or it certainly seemed to me, the intention of Dermot Desmond's son, Ross, to try and point the finger at them. However, I think some of the wording has spilled into what you have classed as the silent majority. I think there's an awful lot of Celtic supporters who are not part of those groups who didn't like what they heard and didn't like the tone of what they heard. And I can understand that, because Celtic have every right to defend themselves if they feel they have to. But as Michael said in his piece, there was some conciliatory tones in some of the stuff that was coming out of the video, messaging the mistakes have been made. And you can sit here and you can say, well, of course they're going to say that, it just gets the people off the backs, blah, blah, blah. But at least it was an admission. The mistakes have been made, things have been done wrong, and here's a reason why there's so much money in the bank, etc., etc. But I think the statement from Ross Desmond turned a lot of fans who you would class as a silent majority against the board, because that was strong. And I think a lot of people felt very, very uncomfortable with that. That is the emotion I get.
So, have you seen the video? There's a video clip sort of doing the rounds on Twitter right now of Ross Desmond's statement, and this is not a guy trying to build bridges or repair relations with punters. It's an attack. It's an attack on the fans, and it's him, getting his retaliation in first on behalf of his father. I mean, that was not a statement designed to, broker peace. That was, they were redress and rewrite the agenda as they see it.
And exactly as I'm saying, Andy, I think if it was an attempt, I don't know this, but if it was an attempt to get at the so-called factions that they think are the noisy ones and being unruly, and I think the word was used, bullying was used, it's gone way beyond that, because he's then taken that into the general fan base with some of the things that have been said there, and the tone of it, and the way it was delivered, and that's not a good move.
And the Celtic support in general don't want to be lectured to by the son of a billionaire, who's effectively walked into that meeting. He said that he's probably painted a target in his back. He walked into the meetings with a suicide vest on. I mean, he's walked right into the middle of the thing and blown it up. And I don't understand it, Swanee, because the Desmond family, throughout their time at Celtic, they've operated in the shadows. Very rarely does anybody put their head above the parapet. Very rarely do you hear from them. And in the space of a few weeks, Dermot Desmond has come out at 1 o'clock with an absolute evisceration of Brendan Rodgers, which was scandalous and unbecoming of Celtic. And then he's given his boy a poison pen letter to walk into the AGM with.
Yeah, I don't know what the end game. I don't know what the end game is, Keith.
No, that's what I'm wondering.
I don't know what the end game is. I hate to sit on this show if people are tuning in and are looking for answers to have somebody go, I don't know. But I generally don't know what the end game is there, because surely that AGM was an opportunity. That should have been the beginning. I think there was a meeting, wasn't there, between Ward and the fans collective previously, and the fans left that very unhappy because they basically didn't get any answers. It seems that they didn't get any of the answers to the questions they were looking for. They didn't get the opportunity to ask the questions this time because of what happened. Any of the shareholders that were in there, and that was another unfortunate side to this. But that AGM should have been the start of the unification process. That's what it should have been designed for. And the new manager will be coming in, and everybody moves forward now on the same page. And I have absolutely no idea what the idea was behind that statement from Ross Desmond. I don't know what it was intended to achieve.
I find it incredible.
From unification.
Andy, obviously you've witnessed some eventful AGMs on the other side of town. But even though as dysfunctional as Rangers have been over the years, it's hard to remember anything. Well, I guess there was the marquee on the pitch, wasn't there? The
John Brown one sitting in the corner, the government stand, the brilliant stand, where he was berating the rats in the board at the time. Yeah, I mean, listen, I think what a lot of people will find it hard to understand is just the ferocity of the anger, because if you look from the outside and you go, well, Celtic, they've won, what is it, 13 the last 14 titles.
13 out of the last 14 titles.
Yeah, dominant. But I think Celtic fans have got every right to be unhappy because, they've set, for the best will, they've completed Scottish football right now. They've surpassed Rangers trophy count. They have, been dominant for a decade. They have every right to decide, right, okay, we want to now set our sights higher, and they think the club should match that ambition, and the club have not. All this, as much as Ross Desmond's given this, we need to be, careful with our money. European football's precarious and it's moved beyond us. But they've just been scudded 3-0 off a Michelin 12,000 seater stadium. There's no way that Celtic should be losing to opposition of that standard.
Yeah, and
regularly, so consistently, time and time again, as it has been for the last decade.
And I understand some of the stuff about the European, the European stuff. Just some of it doesn't make sense to supporters, because most supporters are thinking if you run the business properly and you invest properly in the signings prior to the qualifier against Kairat Almaty, then you have the Champions League money for this year, and that's how it rolls. Rather than putting yourself into a situation. Now, Celtic should be beating Kairat Almaty anyway. We've had this debate. That's been and gone. But you take my point. Celtic fans feel like the investment should have been done properly prior to when it was. And they would have also Champions League money.
I also think, Swanee, it's a really difficult argument to try and tell your fans, sit down, shut up, just pipe down. We can't do anything in Europe.
Yeah, we can't do anything in Europe, but can you buy these 3-game packages, please? And by the way, the team across the city have just been at a final. They've
been to 2 finals. Yeah. So, I thought it was extraordinary misjudgment, misstep.
And that's what
I need to come back to you on Celtic. Obviously, you were at Paisley for the late night shot on Saturday, and Celtic got that result. So we want to talk about that as well, and we'll talk about Rangers and a lot of comments about the refereeing and VAR decisions at Ibrox, Andy, which we'll come on to. But we're joined from Pittodrie right now by Scott Burns. Scott, I don't even really want to ask this question because it's cliched. Yeah. Is that it for Hearts? Or are we witnessing the beginning of the end of this title fight for Hearts, do you think?
Beginning of the end. I mean, Hearts, they're 4 points top, clear at the top of the Premiership. I know Celtic got a game in hand, but Celtic won that. Hearts are still top of the league, so I don't think it's all doom and gloom. 1 defeat after 13 games, I think most Hearts fans would have taken that at the start of the season. And I think most teams, every other team would want to be in Hearts' position just now. So I think it's a bit too early to start writing off the title challenge quite yet.
No, listen, I'm not, but I'm conscious of the fact that I'm joined by Craig, come back to me at Christmas time, Swan. Because I've been saying all along that I think Hearts, and I agree with you, Scott. Listen, Pittodrie on an away day, it's a difficult venue. Aberdeen, that was probably their statement one of the season so far. And Hearts, the one thing that you would say, guys, and I'll ask you just now, Scott, that Hearts had to travel up the road without Craig Halkett, Benny Beningame, Lawrence Shankland. Does that hint at the problems that Hearts might encounter over the course and distance of other league if their squad, if there's a bit of a drop off when they lose key players?
They also lost the Brazilian Eduardo Aguirre as well, and with an injury on Friday, so that's 4 out. And as we spoke to Derek McKinnon said after the game, that's pretty much, if you look at it, a lot of the spine of the team. Because Halkett's been a massive massive player at the back for them. Shankland's been their talisman in the midfield. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Beningame is an important player, keeping them ticking over in the middle of the park. So you take 4 key players, certainly 3 key players out of any team, it's going to have an impact. And Hearts are no different. You know what I mean? But what I would say is that obviously Hearts are massive from the Jamestown analytics, which is brilliant, and it can spot a player. But this is more the cage of when you come up to Pittodrie in November, when the place is frozen, when there's been full of snow. That's where you really see if these Hearts players will be Hearts players in the long term and can make the impact at the club more than anything like the stats look at, you know what I mean, or computer data. And the other thing as well is people are saying that it's maybe a surprise that Hearts have lost because that's the first league defeat, but you also look at it, Hearts haven't won at Pittodrie since 2016 in the league.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's when you look at the stats wise that way, then it's probably not a surprise that Aberdeen have won this game. You know what I mean? But just
and they did create a lot of chances, didn't they? Hearts, they had some decent chances. I think Derek McInnes was bemoaning the fact that they weren't clinical enough or composed enough in front of goal. He's probably got a point. On another day, Hearts could have won that game. But in terms of Aberdeen, are we witnessing a turning point here for Jimmy Telly? Because just a few weeks ago, Burnsy, all I was hearing for the North East was that the fans had enough.
Yes. A few weeks can be a long time in football. No, certainly. Look, is it a turning point? Well, I think there's been signs of improvement in recent weeks. Certainly on the domestic front, the manager's moved to 3 at the back, and that seems to have helped them show them up, like it did when it brought success in the Scottish Cup final. That seems to have brought the basis for a bit of a revival. They're a lot harder to break down now. They don't lose as many goals. The other issue is that they're probably not as exciting, or they don't score as many goals going the other way. That's the balance that Jimmy Ellen has got to try and find over the coming weeks. But there's certainly signs of an improvement. It's a few wins, but they're still sitting in the bottom 6. I mean, they still need to get up there to be challenging the European positions before you can say things have turned round. But there's certainly been a massive improvement since the start of the season where they couldn't win a game and couldn't score a goal. Yeah,
well, they got their goal with Keskinen today, kind of late on in the first half, and that was enough to do it. But boys, I don't know if you boys watched it. What about Mitrov going out and absolutely wiping out Kabori? And nobody even thought to have another look at that to see if it was a penalty kick. Am I the only one that looked at that and thought, can keepers just run about, wiping people out here?
I never saw it, I'm afraid to say, but listen, I think we'll come on to it, refereeing decisions in this country at the moment. I'll leave in a lot of his reports. There seems to be a weekly basis now. But I thought VAR was supposed to come in and sort out these issues, but they seem to be having more controversy and more debating points than ever right now.
Was anything said about that after the game, Burnsy? Because for me, VAR's got to look at that.
No, it wasn't raised at all. But there was another incident as well with Kabori off the ball where he's caught.
Yes,
where collided commissioner as well. Was it? I mean, I haven't seen that back, but is that a potential flashpoint that VAR should have looked at?
Look to me, Bunsey. I don't think there's a malicious intent. I think he's just trying to throw an, you know what I mean, to get in front of his guy. He makes connection. I don't think he means it. I think if VAR did have a look at it, I think they did. They probably decided that there wasn't enough in it. But Mitrov just coming out, and he obviously comes for a ball. I think he actually misses it and just comes out and just flattens Big Kabori. I don't know. Different rules for goalkeepers, isn't it?
As always, the protected ones.
Yeah. Right, Bunsey, listen, thanks for jumping on, mate. We'll let you get on with your business for the paper, and we'll speak to you through the week.
Yep, all the best. Cheers, lads.
Cheers, Bunsey. Thanks for that. So, anyway, as we're saying, more kind of refereeing decisions and all that to discuss. Plenty of comments flying in about them. But, Swanee, let's go to Saturday night. St Mirren versus Celtic. And on the back of that AGM, is that as poor a 90 minutes as you've seen from a Celtic side this season?
Yeah, they've been flat in various games this season, Keith. And Saturday night was right up there. They were very, very poor, very disjointed. Martin O'Neill spoke about it after the game, that the use of the ball, the first half performance, they virtually non-existent as an attacking force. Got a little bit better in the second half, started to get some more tempo into their game, but even then, I say more tempo, it was a low bar that was set. It wouldn't have taken much. They were so poor. Not a meaningful attempt on target until Callum McGregor comes up with a wonder goal. And it's remarkable. You're sitting at the game as it ticks into injury time. St Mirren, it has to be said, were excellent, and it really has set the scene for the Premier Sports Cup final next month. That is not, if people think that's a foregone conclusion, if Celtic continue in the vein they're in at the moment, that's no foregone conclusion. St Mirren had the chances to win that game last night. The better chances than Celtic before Celtic scored. They also had the ball in the net, which St Mirren were unhappy about. And Liam Scales put it in his own net. There was a bit of debate over that one. But Celtic were just poor. And as I say, going into injury time, you kind of look at it thinking, well, Celtic are going to drop 2 points here. Hearts have got a chance to go 9 ahead. And Celtic end up at the weekend only 4 behind.
Yeah, incredible.
That's lottery win stuff, judging by the way they played the other night. So Celtic are going to have to improve. We all know about the injury problems. We all know about the guys that have been missing. But the way they're having to squeeze square pegs into round holes, it's just not working. It's not working. And I think the thing that the Celtic supporters will be pleased about is the fact that Martin O'Neill didn't attempt to dress it up after the game. He was very, very honest, very forthright, as you would accept, as you would. I've lost the word. Expect him to be. I don't have much expectancy in my own life, and I just couldn't remember expect. He was exactly as you'd expect him to be. He called it out straight away. Said they weren't good enough. The use of the ball wasn't good enough, and actually said it was a goal not in keeping with the game. But you're probably going to Callum McGregor, but unbelievable.
That's a great strike. It's a great strike. But what was your thoughts on the Liam Scales' own goal, Swanee, which was obviously chopped off for offside? Yeah. Was he really interfering with play? Wasn't it?
I actually think I was actually watching the Hearts game today, and there was one, and nothing came of it. Somebody sort of scuffed a shot towards the goal, and
Jamie McCart jumped over it. And the Aberdeen player cleared it out, and it went back to a Hearts player. And the linesman put his flag up as if, no, you guys can't keep possession here, because he only clears that because Jamie McCartson. And that was what, I know it was a different circumstance, but that's what sprung my mind back to it. My own view is only Liam Scales is going to know whether he caught Conor McMenamin out the corner of his eye. My suspicion is he did. He senses somebody's there and he juts a leg out. He's spooked into it.
He's got John Ayunga under control, I'd say, and the ball's going through to Kasper Schmeichel. That's the way I read it. Whether it's peripheral vision, whether it's a corner of his eye, he's caught. He seems to realise that someone's there and juts a leg out. I can understand why that's chalked off. Listen, I understand why St Mirren are annoyed about it. I understand why people of a Celtic persuasion would say it should have been ruled out. So,
did you get a look at that one, Andy?
I did. I agree with Swanee. I think I don't think there's any doubt that he's only played the ball because he's worried Colin McMahon's going to nip in or head him. I think Otherwise, either just, as you say, jockeys it back to the keeper, or he's got time to hook it out for a throw-in. I think he throws a leg out it because he's worried about the player coming in his blind side. So, yeah, I think in terms of debate, I don't think you can slaughter the refs too much for that one. I thought they called it perfectly adequately.
Right, so back to Callum McGregor, Swanee, because that's a captain doing what a captain should do, isn't it? Inspiring, leading, and it's almost, I've just written a bit for tomorrow's paper. He must be in absolute despair at what's happening around him because he cares so passionately about Celtic, his football club. He must be looking at this going, what are you guys up to? Because it's impacting on this team. There's no doubt about it. You know, people can say what they want, and the players that operate in a bubble, these players are well aware of what's going on, and it's impacting on them.
Yeah, I think so. And I think that goes back to where these arguments and all the stuff started in the summer. I think we all agreed that the Celtic squad, the mainstays within the Celtic squad, had done enough to earn the right for proper provisions to be brought in to help them take the next step in the Champions League. They were all involved in that Champions League run last year. They were all facing Bayern Munich and coming in an ace or taking them the extra time. Just like the manager, Brendan Rodgers, they were excited to go back in and have another go. And they've gone into the new season, and none of them admit it, because, of course, they can't admit it publicly, can they? But we can. Guys like Callum McGregor and Cameron Carter-Vickers and guys like that must have been looking around the dressing room thinking, this team's weaker. Mm-hmm. And we're not going to make it. And then they don't make it, and they don't have help. And it's going to drag. And my own view is that is having a big effect on the performance of certain senior players. Guys like Rio Hatate have just vanished. Mm-hmm. Just vanished. What I mean, this guy's one of the most talented players in Scotland, and not happening at all for him at the moment. Yeah, I mean, Carter-Vickers' form was on the slide a wee bit before he got injured. Dyson Maida looks a shadow of the player from last year. Doesn't help. He's been fitted around every position in the front line instead of just playing him as a number 9 where he should be playing. I don't understand that logic, but I think guys like Callum McGregor have got every right to look round and say, how has it come to this? How has it come to this from where we were April time when they were going for another treble, having just had a great run in the Champions League? How's it go? How has Celtic managed to get from there to where they are just now? It's extraordinary. It's unbelievable.
It's extraordinary.
Yeah.
Andy, you were obviously at Ibrox, and I have to tell you, if the Celtic performance was bad, I'm not sure the Rangers one was any better.
Oh no. I mean, I've just written my match report for tomorrow's paper, and I think the big concern for Rangers fans watching that yesterday is there's still another 5 weeks to go before the transfer window opens, and you get some of these guys that were also injured before they get them back, because there's some big games in there, there's some tricky fixtures coming up, a couple of European games, and even like Braga Thursday night. I mean, I worry about Rangers, especially at that European level, with the way the defence is looking, with the lack of creativity, the lack of goal scorers they've got in the team. I mean, you're talking about a Rangers team that have scored only 2 more goals than Livingston, who are sitting bottom of the table. I mean, this is, where Rangers are at this now. I mean, Danny Rowe, obviously none of the blame is on him. He's coming in, he's trying to tidy up this mess, clean up this mess, but he has a hell of a job in his hands, because the squad is a mile short. All it's taken is, a very, you would say, not a mild injury crisis, if you want to call it that, and all of a sudden this team looks so bare in so many areas. They were poor yesterday. They got a huge slice of fortune with the handball non-award, if you want to call it that. And obviously Livingston had a couple of chances, a huge chance in the second half, where they should have scored. Tete Yenge was in for his second goal, and Jack Butler made a huge save to keep the score level at that point. And then obviously they get another VAR decision to get them over the line with Mohamed Diamande. His goal was initially chalked off for offside. He taps the ball into an empty net after Bojan Majowski and the keeper Jerome Pryor had a sort of coming together. Danny Rowe came into the press conference after the game and held his hand up, admitted it was a sort of a dirty performance, a dirty win. But I think he's got every reason to be worried, because I think he's just so lacking in options and quality. I mean, midfield, Taylor Asgard dragged off after 45 minutes. A guy that
He's not cutting the mustard, that boy, is he,
Oh,
Andy? He's a mile off it.
he's a mile off it right now. I think a lot of fans were expecting to see him really kick on after Russell Martin's departure. I think a lot of people felt it's just the system. It's the way he's been asked to play. That's why he's not really shown his full flourish. And we saw he had that incredible goal against Dundee United when Stevie Smith was in charge against Dundee United the game after Russell Martin's departure. And you thought, well, this is what this guy can provide now. If you can just if he's get that freedom to run at players and freedom to take shots. But I mean, a couple of games now, the action's just passed him by. I mean, I'm not entirely sure what it is he's supposed to be doing in there. He just sort of flits around the edge of the box, looks for passes, but whenever MD finds him, he just ends up giving away possession. It's so cheap at times. So I think, I mean, cost a lot of money. I think it was £3.5 million. I think fans, it's another one that will be throwing it back at Kevin Thelwell as going, this was the guy that you told us was going to be the mainstay of the team, the future of the team, and right now he's, as you say, he's a mile off it.
Andy, you mentioned Danny Roll. I think we've got a clip of Danny Roll's what he was saying after the game. Or maybe we don't. Right, okay, well, we don't.
Danny, how are you feeling after that performance? Good to get 3 points, but maybe a performance that could use some improvements.
Yeah, of course. I think I said to my team today, it was a hard-working victory, not more than less. It's 3 points. I think the first 10 minutes we scored, and then we felt, we are comfortable, we can carry on, and it feels easy. Then we start to be a little bit, we're not 100% focused in the small details. Our pass quality was not fast enough. Then we slow down. Then we start to be too far in our counter pressing. It was all the conceded goal. Near the ball, we were not aggressive and close enough to go into. Then was an easy long ball, and then of course every opponent bring then effort in. We lift them with the 1-1, and then they stay compact. In a deeper block, and then you have to break them down, and this is always, you need patience, but you need also to speed up the game in the right moment, and it was then what we couldn't do. We changed them something in half time from the positioning, break them a little bit more on the last line. It was then better and better. But finally then the impact player from the bench today helped us, gives us a lift. We know that we have to improve this game. And especially then also I think it was the first time that we really played against a deep block where we have to be a lot of ball possession, and they always were man to man on the last line, and we hit them sometimes was 7 against 7 on the last line. We missed the opposite runs. If you have this and you just stay there on the last line, then it's tough to break them. I think we'll work on this, but all in all, 4 wins in a row. If you asked me 4 weeks ago, I would take them.
The whispering Danny Roll. Andy, right, before we move on, because we need to speak about the penalty kick, Swanee, I hope you've seen it as well, because we need to have that discussion. We're getting bombarded, inundated, quite rightly so. But before we do that, Andy, are you seeing anything? And I know it's other people's players. I know it's Kevin Thelwell has brought together the worst shopping list in the history of bad shopping lists. And I know that Russell Martin was the manager. But what are you seeing? What difference is Danny Roll making? Is there a difference? Are they any better?
Well, they're winning games for starters, so that's...
They are winning games.
So, I mean, certainly domestically, the results are still as poor as they ever were in Europe. But, at the end of the day, this was a guy that came in and inherited a team that had won 1 game out, I think, of 7 or 8 when he came in. So they've now got 4 on the bounce. So that in itself is progress, undoubtedly. Listen, I think he's more pragmatic in a way that Russell Martin was never going to be. He's acknowledged that he has to stiffen the team up. The first thing he did was really look to stiffen the spine of the team up. He obviously moved to a back 3. He was back to a back 4 at the weekend there, but I think that was just needs must because of the bodies available. But there's no doubt that they're still really, really lacking, especially going forward. But I don't think that changes until he gets his own players on, because the recruitment over the summer was just so bad and so short of the required standard. I mean, we've spoken a million times about the millions that have been spent and wasted on guys that, just aren't up to it and were never worth the money that they've spent. So they're going to have to, they've released figures this week, £40 million loss last year. Obviously, that doesn't include the summer business, but, I think it's fair to say that the owners are going to have to spend again because they're going to have to fix the mess that they created, and they have created a mess, and it is a mess. I mean, that's a team that, I don't understand how you can take a team that everyone said last year was the worst in living memory, finish 17 points behind Celtic, and spend £40 million on it and make it worse. But that is what
worse than what it was.
Significantly worse. The last season's team would scud this Rangers team, frankly. So they're going to have to spend big in the summer because there's still so many areas. One, that they're just lacking in basic cover. Left back, they're basically having to play with an 18, 19-year-old kid on loan for Brentford. They definitely need more options at centre back. They need despite having spent, is it £12 million strikers, they're going to have to go and get another striker, I think, in January. They need somebody else in midfield that can open up defences. So, and then obviously you've got the injuries. Derek Cornelius, not quite sure how long he's going to go out for, but looks like it'll be longer than the 5-6 weeks we're talking for John Souttar. So,
really, I wasn't aware of that. So Cornelius is actually going to be out for longer than Souttar.
Yeah, it looks like that way. He's obviously got to see a specialist. I was at the press conference on Friday, but just sort of piecing together what Danny Rowe was saying. Obviously, his English is better than my German, let's put it that way, but sometimes you need to do a wee bit of probing with him just to get to the actual detail of it. I think Cornelius will be out for a longer spell. So, yeah, I mean, it's just remarkable. It's Swanee's talking about Celtic and how poor they've been and how far they've regressed. I mean, the decline of the regression at Rangers from a low starting point, we must stress, but it's been just, if not deeper than what it is across the city.
Some state, the pair of them. And Swanee, it should have been a penalty for Livingston. Let's clear that up before we go any further.
Yeah, I think that seems to be the general consensus. I can actually remember being on this show. I don't know if you'll maybe remember it, Keith, earlier in the season. I was at Rugby Park when Kilmarnock played Celtic.
Yeah.
And it was a ridiculous one that was given to Celtic against Kilmarnock.
That's right.
Had a shot that rattled off Robbie Dees' knee and cannoned into Lewis Mayo's arm.
Yeah.
It wasn't going on target, and it wasn't any, and there was absolutely nothing the guy could do about it. And a penalty was given. And we were like, how can that be? And Stuart Kettlewell said that night, we were told that's not what the criteria is. So I'll be interested to see what happens going forward.
But funnily enough, Swanee,
you get something different every week. And I think that's why David Martindale is quite right to go off his head about it, because that could happen next week, the identical incident and a penalty's given. And that's what makes it nuts.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
The official reason given to Livingston, I believe, was that deflected Andy off Fernandez's thigh up on his hand. Now,
no, I think it was just, they said it was because it just hits his hand. I think they just said it was at the natural position and it was the proximity of the shot. Basically, the guy was 2 yards away from when he hit it.
What did you think?
I think it's a penalty. I think it's undoubtedly. I think his arm swings. Yeah, okay. Listen, it's not a deliberate, but his arm is swinging towards the ball, makes contact with the ball. It's a goal-bound shot. I think Swanee's absolutely right. I think the problem. I mean, we know what it's like in this country. As soon as there's a dodgy decision, everyone cries conspiracy. I don't think it's conspiracy. I just think it's sheer ineptitude. I mean, I just think we've got, I just think the bunch of referees we've got aren't great, and I don't think the VAR officials are helping either. I think, as I said earlier on, I think VAR was brought in to take away the controversy or certainly diminish it. And I'm sure Ian Maxwell or Willie Collum will sit here and go, yeah, the percentage of right decisions and wrong decisions the percentage of wrong decisions reduced, and it probably has, but they still get so many obvious ones wrong. I mean, and for me, it was bizarre. Like, how do you not send the referee to the monitor for that one? I mean, maybe there's a protocol for this thing if it's a factual decision or something like that. But for me, if the referee goes and watches that back, it only needs one replay to see In fact, it was quite bizarre because usually they also the big screens at Ibrox, and usually they don't show you the replays of controversial incidents like that. But whoever's in charge of the screens must have forgot to switch it off, and they showed the incident on the screen, and the ball hits his hand. And I think you then looked at Davy Martindale down the dugout, and he at that point is just laughing because how else can you explain it? I mean, it's just ludicrous. I mean, it's a clear handball, 5 yards from goal, blocking the ball going into the net. But this is just what happens when you have referees who I don't think are up to scratch. I think, but the only way to improve it is either to get, better VAR system. We saw obviously the incident a couple of weeks ago. Paisley.
You don't need a better VAR system for that, Andy.
No. But I'm just saying for certain incidents you need to pay out. But or is it full-time officials? Is it guys making this their full-time job, and so they work in this day in day out? I don't know. But for me, I think you're right. I think one replay, or I'm amazed that the referee never actually saw it at the time, or didn't think when he saw it that it wasn't a handball, because his hand is. I know they'll talk about making your body bigger on a natural silhouette, but his arms out for his body. For me, it's more than, it's not tucked in tight against his thigh. It's hanging out and it moves. It swings towards the ball. I think it was I think David Martindale called it a stone waller. I don't think I could disagree with that.
No, you can't. Right, guys, just before we go, Scottish football doesn't stand still for 2 seconds. Both these clubs going towards another big European night on Thursday, potentially difficult night for both, and then back into the domestic stuff at the weekend. Swanee, you said before we come on, you're looking at this for Celtic, away to Feyenoord, away to Hibs, all in the space of a few days, and still no sign of the new permanent manager. This feels like it could get a bit sticky over the next few days.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult for Celtic and Holland. I mean, you only have to look at the game in Midtjylland 3 weeks ago just to see how far Celtic were off it. I mean, that was an abysmal performance. I mean, spoke about an abysmal performance against someone. That was woeful, that first half. In Denmark, and I wouldn't imagine it's going to be much easier in the De Kuip. I saw actually Feyenoord lost 4-2 at home today, actually, to NEC Nijmegen, which it was hard. It's not exactly a seismic shock. I think Nijmegen are fourth in the table, but so they're clearly not invincible, Feyenoord, but the levels that they have shown in recent seasons in Europe, and what you would imagine they would be able to do in their home patch. Celtic are going to have to be 150 times better than they were in Paisley, and certainly better than they were in Denmark. And the problem that Celtic have got just now as well is it's literally hanging together with sellotape in terms of bodies. Yeah. All these additional games. That's another Thursday, Sunday. I mean, I think the last one they came back with, Callum Osmond carried off on a stretcher. When the last time when they came back from Midtjylland, then Sarachi gets injured on the Sunday after they come back and been playing. Yeah. It just piles up and piles up and piles up. And I'm sure Andy will agree it's probably the same in the Rangers situation when they play on Thursday night as well. There's probably certain positions you can't afford somebody to go down, and there's every chance it could happen. It's just Celtic and Rangers, I think, in a very similar position. They're at different levels of where they are. Celtic's drop to where they are is still higher than Rangers has dropped to where they are, if you know what I mean. I think Celtic are still above Rangers, that they were coming from a higher place. But I think the two of them in their own separate ways are in a similar position, as in it's just a case of going step by step and trying to get to January until, whether it's Danny Rule and the recruitment department of Rangers and it's Celtic, the new manager, and just to try and get reinforcements, sort the things that are needed in January. But there's so many games between now and that. I mean, everybody says January as if Celtic and Rangers are brilliant to get players in the 1st of January. Do you know what I mean? It could be January the 31st or February the 1st if it's extended. So there's an awful lot of games that they have to navigate until they get to there. And that's why probably Celtic especially were probably delighted with that result in Pittodrie today.
What happens, Swan?
Buys them another slip or two, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, but Celtic have to take care of Celtic's business right now.
Absolutely, yeah.
And these two games look problematic. And a bad situation with the support could become an awful lot. I mean, you can just about muddle through so long as you're still winning games of football.
Yeah.
But start losing games of football and Feyenoord away and Hibs away as I said to you, I think they look problematic. So
Well, you saw how quickly it changed. I mean, the tremendous feel-good factor around Martin O'Neill for those 2 games, and then they went to Denmark, Celtic, and got scudded. And that evaporated that immediately. Now, Celtic, without being disrespectful, probably caught a break by getting Kilmarnock in one of the worst runs that any team's been in the Premier League for the last wee while. They got them the game after at home to get to the international break. Last night was a poor performance. Hibs at Easter Road next Sunday for Celtic. Now, the one thing you would say is the one thing that Hibs have done very badly this year is turn up in big games. They've had Rangers twice when Rangers have been on, really toiling, and they've managed to lose to them twice. They didn't score against Celtic at Parkhead, although they got a point. They lost to Derby. So you could say they're due one.
And yet there they are sitting in third place on that table as well. So.
Exactly, which maybe says as much for what's happening in the league in general and what's happening with Celtic and Rangers.
And Andy, for Rangers, Braga, Thursday night, Falkirk on the Sunday. What does Danny Rowell need to try and get out of these games? Because it looks as if Europe's a busted flush already for Rangers, isn't it?
I think if qualifying for the next round seems a million miles away. If they're going to have any chance of doing that, they need a win. A win at home is an absolute must. But whether they can do that, I'm not so sure. To say Braga, they're one of the contenders to qualify. I think they're sitting 5th in the table this now, whereas Rangers are rock bottom, 36 out of 36. I think where Europe is concerned, I think there's absolutely no doubt it's a distraction right now that they could do without. Right now the be all and end all for Rangers has to be, trying somehow to claw themselves back into a title race. And Swanee's right, it can only be done a game at a time. I think the big concern, just with the way that European results have been going, obviously they've had, I think it's 7 defeats in a row now, which is a club record. It's that ability, that potential to sap confidence away just when it's it's fragile and it's still returning.
There's collateral damage here, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you saw a few years ago in the Champions League when they went in there under Gio Van Bronckhorst, just how damaging the European pastings, the 6 straight defeats in the Champions League.
That was his job, didn't it?
Yeah, but it bled into their domestic campaign.
Yeah.
They just robbed them of all any semblance of confidence or belief in themselves, and you saw them just that, as you say, it ended up costing Van Bronckhorst his job. So I think that would be the concern for Danny Rowell. If they go and just when they think they've turned a corner domestically, they've got 4 in a row. Do they then go and take a sole one against Braga, or maybe early next month we go to Budapest to play Ferencváros? They take a sore one there, and does that again just set them back a couple of steps? So, and as you say, it's one of you saying, of course, well, the potential for injuries and just taking a toll on the players' the legs when you all know how onerous and how taxing the December festive run can be. And there's no let up as well. Obviously, there's no winter break. You're right through into January, into March almost before you get the international break, before you really get any sort of time off. So,
and by the way, as you pointed out, they're now operating with a central defensive duo of Fernandes and Giga, and good luck with that over the next few weeks.
I mean, the big man Fernandes. I mean, he's undoubtedly going to be a threat. Set pieces. How could you not be when you're 7'11" or whatever it is? But I mean, he's raw. And again, this is another one of these players that Rangers fans will point to and go, "You spent how much money on him? £2.5 million on a boy who, there's just so many rough edges to him. Yeah, he'll win everything in there, but it's on the deck where." Certainly judging by the boy who sits behind the press box where we are at Ibrox in the main stand, has absolute kittens every time he tries to play a ball into midfield. Or he tried a Cruyff turn at one point, and I thought the boy behind me was going to have a heart attack. So I mean, where Rangers are at now is they're having to reheat, dig out for cold storage guys that have already been pretty much written off as not good enough. You're talking about Danilo coming back into the team, starting up front. That's a guy that just looked out of it at the start of the season. He was barely playing. Even last year, barely got a game when Barry Ferguson came in. Just most fans had said, well, they need to upgrade him, but now he's the starting centre forward. Bayrami comes on for the last 20 minutes, does quite well, just because he runs about a bit. I think he just showed a bit of application, appetite for it. and he get the sort of big licks from Danny Rowell after the game, and you know they were just about to bring on Clinton Ciala midway through the second half. He never actually came on in the end. I think there was a clash of heads with Fernandes, so I think he didn't come on after at the end. But I mean, that's a guy again who was in the bomb squad. Was Russell Martin told him, find yourself a new club. So this is where they're at. They're down to the bare bones, and they're having to go back to guys that they've already decided aren't up to scratch. So, as I said, January still looks an awful long way away for the Rangers supporters.
And just to echo what Andy's saying across the side, Celtic have been rescued Yang from a boss at Charnock Richard Services. He's still getting put on with 0-0 Saturday night to try and win the game for Celtic. So it just goes to show you what we're saying is true. We're all over the camp, the pair of them.
Yeah, they're a mess. Right, guys, thanks very much for joining us. Thanks very much for all the comments from you guys at home. Much appreciated as ever. And we'll be back tomorrow night at 6 o'clock for the latest instalment of whatever the hell is going on by that point. Cheers, everybody.